Antioch started in, I think, 1963 in Brother Joe's basement.
There was maybe less than a dozen at first, but, those people, some of them mortgaged their houses to be able to, to buy the property and to start building. And
they continued the church in the little white house that sat at the front of the property. And from there, it grew and ran out of space. And so they built what is now Krieger Hall. And then it grew and they ran out of space, and we built the worship center.
Well, Pastor Joe Krieger, had a smaller congregation in the beginning. And I remember him preaching like is it okay to say old-fashioned preacher? He would build up to it and he got my attention.
And later, Pastor Bob was hired as music minister. And when Pastor Joe decided to retire, Pastor Bob became the lead pastor.
After that first Sunday, I think about midweek, Brother Bob came knocking on our door, came in our living room, thanked us for coming. And Bob's a pretty intense dude. So, in a small apartment, there was no getting away from him. But no, we love Brother Bob. And, again, we came back the next week. They invited us back, and we've been coming back ever since.
60 years as a church is quite a milestone. And the focus on family and kids and generations is quite a milestone. It's quite an achievement. And I'm very proud to have been a part of that.
Well, we've been coming to Antioch, like you say, over 40 years now, and we started having children in 1985. Our first one was born, Matt, and he's still a member here, and he married Shanna, and they have 3 children.
They were faithful to bring us to church as kids, and we came to know the Lord, and now it's neat to see kind of that being passed on to our kids, right? Our oldest, Penny, it was neat to see her get baptized a year or two ago, and again, to get to sit next to my parents during that and to know that their faithfulness, was a big driver in a lot of that, and just how God was faithful through them.
I tell you, there's nothing like your grandkids running up to you in the hall and giving you a big hug and pulling out their Sunday school paper and saying, "Hey, Papa, can I tell you what we learned in our Sunday school today?" Now, I know there's a little incentive involved with that because they get a piece of candy if they get somebody to sign their paper, but we're going to leave that part out.
One thing that I've thought is really cool about Antioch is that when we first got married and served as kindergarten and first grade Sunday school teachers, we taught a few groups of kids, and then now those same kids are teaching our kids. Our 8-year-old Penny, she'll come home and tell us about talking to her friends at recess about Jesus, and our church makes it normalized for our kids to spread the message and not be ashamed of the gospel.
Well, the best, as you're getting me choked up here, probably the best way that I can describe it, I've got a Bible that, and the first page, I don't know if you can see it, but I started a running tab of, when Matt was baptized and accepted Christ, and Brad and Michelle, and then the grandkids, and when Matt and Shanna joined Antioch. And so, that just kind of tells me, how sweet the mission field can be when you start at home. Having our lives intertwined with the church and our kids and our grandkids, that's a pretty strong bond that, is going to be tough to break. So, you won't be able to dynamite us out of Antioch. We're there for the long haul.
I've been coming to Antioch since 1972, so 51 years.
About 1979.
For a little over 40 years now.
I've been coming to Antioch for my whole life.
I grew up within Antioch basically my whole life.
We've been members of Antioch since 2016.
A couple years ago,
We've been going to Antioch for just about 2 years now.
You could tell right away when we were first visiting. The first thing we commented was there's just multi-generational. You saw kids with older adults, people our age, people a little bit older than us, intermixing, talking, and hanging out. So that was the first that we mentioned when we first visited. And then
having Cora, I'm just thrilled that we get to raise her at Antioch and get to see her growth and her, Lord willing, just relationship with Christ.
When we moved to Kansas City during the pandemic, we looked at a lot of churches online. We looked at their doctrinal statements. We looked at their online services. Antioch came to the top very quickly, and so we came here on Easter of 2021.
And we didn't know anybody, you know. We didn't know anybody because all we had was our family here. We were ready for our church family again.
When we first moved here, we were looking for a local pregnancy center. Resource Health popped up, and so they had invited me to an event that was at Antioch, and I came home and I said, we need to go try out that church, and ever since then, we've been there.
So we went, just so happened to be the weekend Pastor Bob announced that he was stepping down, which was kind of funny timing, but it didn't seem to, rock the boat or make waves. Like, everybody was grateful for everything Pastor Bob had done, but there was no fear about Pastor Steve taking the reins.
just the friendship of those two was very clear, and the transition was so smooth. To now have a third pastor in just under 60 years is something that we take a lot of pride in, and I think it's a good sign of a healthy church, and that the pastors are invested in the church. It's not a stepping stone for them.
This with me and with Steve over the years, and having his impact in my life has this encouraged me to, again, live out the gospel. What does it mean to really follow Christ and have him be the leader of your life? And so with that, again, has led me to help Marcus with a church plant in Indian Hills, Colorado. And again, that's nothing I really saw coming, but something that God saw coming, and He's placed me there for a reason and purpose, and this to follow Him.
I think it's really special that Antioch's celebrating 60 years because it's just a steady and firm and faithful church.
It definitely gives me hope for the future.
And I just think it shows God's faithfulness to have a church that's been around for that long and that is still not conforming to the culture in the world.
I remember Brother Joe saying, hey, if any time somebody up here isn't preaching from the Word, run. There's been no need to run.
I think it's such a blessing to be a part of it and to be one of the older people that are still here.
I'm just really excited to look towards the future of Antioch, and with Steve's, all of his different plans, his 7-year plan and 15-year Psalms plans, and I just love that.
Being able to laugh with her when she's in high school when we're done with Psalms, and just the long-term goals that the church has set. It'll be fun to see the fruition of that.
To us, it's just kind of fun to be at a church with a 60th anniversary, because we've only ever been at 2 other churches in our 45 years together. One of them they had their 150th anniversary, so we feel like, well, we're in the beginning of this, and it's the 60th year.
Yeah.